Liberty Gold is focused on exploring the Great Basin of the United States for oxide Carlin-style in sediment-hosted gold systems. I will be making some forward-looking statements. The company is the aftermath of the discovery of the Long Canyon gold deposit that was sold to Newmont in 2011 for $2.3 billion, and we're focused in the Great Basin of the United States. Same discovery team, same methodology. We're looking for sediment-hosted oxide gold. We're well financed, and I'll get to that in a second, and I'm just going to go through this quickly because there's going to be a lot of slides. Mark O'Day is the chairman of the board. Maura Smith is the person involved with 4 other geologists who are responsible for every discovery in this company. Shares outstanding, 237 million, fully diluted 290 million. On Friday last week after the close, after a 2-year process, managed to close on the sale of one of our Turkish assets with Teck Corporation. We received $4 million US in our treasury as the first payment on that. Then as of August 15th, 2020, 21, and 22, we'll get $6 million US each year sequentially. So that goes into our treasury with no dilution to the shareholders. We also have, at the end of this year, with 2 drills operating now, 17.5 million Canadian on top of that. There's $24 million Canadian of in-the-money warrants, and we're going through a monetization process of other assets right now, which we're reasonably comfortable will add another 10 or 15 million to the treasury. The shareholders in the company with warrants, Van Eck has 19%, RCF out of Denver, 12%, management and insiders have 6.8%, and as it stands now, there's 17 resource funds in Liberty Gold, all coming on the back of the Black Pine discovery, which I'm going to discuss in a second. This is where the projects are. Black Pine is now number 1, Goldstrike is 2, Kinsley number 3 in order of priority. They're all past producing, run-of-mine, oxide heap-leached mines from the 90s that operated and made money in a $300 gold market. They all came with a massive database. It takes 2 years to get these things permitted and understood geologically before we drill them. And I'll talk about the Black Pine because that is the new discovery. Here's Black Pine in Idaho. This project was picked up by our geologist, Maura Smith, and we purchased it for $800,000 US, 300,000 shares of Liberty, and a 0.5% NSR to the vendor. So just over approximately $1 million US. The project was abandoned in the mid-2005 to 2010, so the only royalty on this asset is a 0.5% NSR to the vendor. When we purchased it, we found the missing database, 1,874 historical holes, all the blast holes, cyanide soluble assays for gold, silver. We reconstructed the mine and all the geology, and it was a 2.5-year process before we drilled it this April. We were also drilling the Goldstrike property at the exact same time in Utah, and that project has a PEA on it, an after-tax IRR of current metal prices of 41.5%, and a 1.8-year payback to produce 95,000 ounces of gold for a minimum of 7.5 years. The first 6 holes from Black Pine kicked Goldstrike into the number 2 position. This slide's really important. You'll get a sense of the scale of the oxide system. The photograph of the mountain in the bottom is taken 18 kilometers from an interstate highway. The mountain is the oxide target. It covers a 12 square kilometer drill-confirmed oxide gold system that was never drilled deep enough. We have no water on this mountain where we don't want it. The pits are dry, and in oxide mineralization now down to 1,000 feet, there's no water in those holes. We have plenty of water in the basin. The property was burned 20 years ago. There are no timber values, and the photograph is taken from the dry part of the Great Salt Lake, so we're not dealing with any fish or any other species. If you're not geologically oriented, the cartoon is as simple as this. We're finding gold in the blue, purple, and green rocks. The yellow rocks and the brown rocks above and below them do not carry any oxide gold. Historically, this property was drilled to a depth of 90 meters, and now we're hitting it down to 300 meters. And the interpretation is gold came up through those structures, and it's horizontally controlled along that lower contact, and then it goes up normal faults where we were mining it historically, and now we have confirmed that as as being true. This is the grade tenure of the pits above the gold zone, and we're drilling below those pits. This is the plan of operations where we're permitted. Covers 7.3 square kilometers, and that red geometric figure is 1 square kilometer. We've got 2 drills in that first square kilometer, and we can't get out of it. And we're now permitting the southwest portion of this project, and we've also drilled where it says 1 kilometer, a 2.8 kilometer step out. We're waiting on assays, but we see the same mineralized system 2.8 kilometers away. So the whole oxide target is 12 square kilometers. This is what it looks like from the discovery zone. Discovery number 1 is projected to surface. Laterally, it is 150 meters wide, 40 meters thick, and it's high grade below the historical drilling. That's 1 kilometer long. Discovery number 2 is about 400 meters laterally. Now it goes right to the red trucks in the very bottom right of the photograph, and that's 50 to 55 meters thick, again under the historical work. Don't get dazzled by dots. These are unmined oxide drill intercepts that we didn't drill. And as soon as we drilled underneath of that shallow drilling, that's the grade tenure of the drill holes we hit. The blue lines were showing you the trend where we thought the feeder fault structural feeder fault corridors were going. And now that's complicated again because they're going north-south and they're now going east-west. And we still can't get out of that first square K. The before shot, this is what we started with, and we went to the bottom of the pits and we notified in the dark green unit at the base that there was a high-grade mineralization that they did not identify as being horizontal. So we tested that, and we drilled between it along that corridor and confirmed the high grade in the base. So when we model out this square kilometers, there's room for 200 plus million tons of favorable rock. In the dark green rock, there's room for 125 million tons, but it's not all going to carry. Only within this corridor are you going to get the high grade. This is what it looks like today. We thought we'd drill this off with 90 holes. We're on hole 102 as of this morning, and we've drilled 30% of the first square kilometer. All the high grade is laterally below at depth, but between those purple lines. Probably one of the most important slides I'm going to show you. There's 1,874 historical database holes in the database that are unmined. Those are in white. We've drilled 69 holes and kicked 83 of them off the list with the high-grade discovery. We now have 13 of the top 20 holes. They average 52.8 meters at 2.27 grams oxide, which is over 4 times what's being mined today. If you go to the next 30 holes, we have a third of those at 38.8 meters of 1.95 grams. So this is a bit of a freak of nature like Long Canyon when it had really, really high grades over big thicknesses. This is what the first corridor looks like. You can see the high grade zone. You can see what's above cutoff above it, so there's not going to be that much strip ratio in taking this off. Discovery number 2, thicker but higher grade. And again, all those holes sitting above it are above cutoff that they were mining in the old days. And if you see them floating in the air, that's because they're on either side of those pits. This is a cross section that goes right across the entire system and covers a kilometer. You can see where it says A pit, they pulled 198,000 ounces of gold out of that little hole. So we drilled underneath of it, and there's the high grade base to the system. And so we just don't know how big it is yet. Metallurgy will be out on, I would think about the end of Q1, early Q2, but this stuff is 92, the high grade is 92 to 97% cyanide soluble, and we won't put a resource out until we go nicely through 2 million ounces. That's what the high grade looks like, 5 to 10 gram material. And this is the last 2 slides, and I've got 45 seconds left. These are 2.5 kilometer long cross sections, and the dark green where it says untested is the target. And we've only touched a tiny little portion of this. And this is 4 sections through the core of the system. Now if we follow the structures, the A base and B pit is the slide we've already drilled. Effectively, we're drilling that off. Everything else is the drill target. And it's really size, scale, and grade. That's all I really want you to take out of this presentation. And that's it, and I've got 10 seconds left. Thanks.